It's time for This Week in WordPress, episode number 284, entitled Flamingos, Water Slides, and Bright Jumpers. It was recorded on Monday, the 29th of January, 2024. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and I'll be joined in a few moments by my fabulous guests. The guests today are Wendy. I'm terrible with her surname, so I'm just going with Wendy. By Rob Cairns, and also by the co-host Kathy Zant. It's a WordPress podcast, so of course we're going to talk about WordPress. The topics under discussion this week: core editor improvements, especially in terms of revisions. There's a really interesting video by Anne McCarthy showing what that new UI will look like. We learn what the release squad looks like for WordPress 6.5, and also the goals of WordPress generally in the year 2024. Josepha Hayden-Chomposi outlined some of those. I did a podcast with Michelle Frechette all about diversity, and we discussed that. There's also a pilot program to stop using Meetup as the software for organizing WordPress meetups and instead go over to a WordPress solution called GatherPress. What is that about? WordCamp Asia, they need some help in terms of contributor day help. WordPress has got 2 new plugins to speed things up, and it sounds like the panel are not quite so sure about them. Also, something we weren't quite so sure about is a new tool built into Elementor to be able to take sections from other people's websites and replicate them with AI. And we also get into a whole lot more fun stuff as well. And it's all coming up next on This Week in WordPress. This episode of the WP Builds podcast is brought to you by GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with the Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. Find out more at go.me/WP Builds. Well, hello there. Hi, everybody. It is Monday, the 29th of January, 2024. It is This Week in WordPress, episode number 284. 284, I think, is the right number. Very, very nice to have you with us, especially the 3 fine people who've decided to join me today. First off, I got it right. First time. It's Kathy Zant. How are you, Kathy?
I'm doing well. Good to see you.
Yeah, really good to see you as well. So Kathy's bio is a little bit different. So here we go. Let's run through it the first time. It used to say other things. Now it says this. Kathy is the director of content and community at Motivations AI, the creator of Motivation Code. Motivation Code is an assessment that explains who you are, what motivates us, and how to live a more fulfilling life tied to our individual motivation dimensions. She's passionate about WordPress, your stories, and believes that everyone's voice deserves to be heard. Forgive me, Rob, and forgive me, Wendy. I'm just going to go down this rabbit hole very quickly, if that's all right. So, just explain a little bit more about the company, because although that makes sense to me, is this a new company? Is this a company that was founded recently? I guess it's sort of jumping on the AI bandwagon, but it's all about mood and health and mental well-being and all that, is it?
All of the science behind this has been around for quite some time, for decades. So there's been tons of research into what makes people do the things that they do. All of this came out of the Gallup organization. And with the addition of AI, there's this assessment is so cool. You basically tell AI stories about things that have fulfilled you in your life. And it comes back and tells you, well, here's why. This is what motivates you. This is your dimension. These are your dimensions. It's not just like one thing. Like you take the Myers-Briggs and it's like, I like coffee or I like tea, right? It's like an either or type of thing.
Yeah.
But we are multidimensional people, right? Humans or spirits having a human experience. And there's a lot of different things that go into our motivations. And the cool thing for me personally was when I learned about my top 3 dimensions. My top 3 dimensions really just felt like, oh, this makes so much sense. I understood myself a lot better. So it's really a joy to be working with some just incredible people with incredible technology, and we're off to change the world and how people work.
That's great. Well, imagine working for a company where you can say, "We're off to change the world." That's so cool. You'll be in good company, won't you? Because when I looked at the Motivations AI website, it looks like the WordPress community, quite a few members of the WordPress community have joined forces with you. I guess you're one of the more recent people that's jumped on board, but there's a whole bunch, isn't there? So you're in
Yeah,
safe hands,
yeah.
we know.
And familiar and just incredible people.
Yeah.
It's been a really long time since I felt imposter syndrome of like, what am I do I really belong in this room?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, these people are so smart and so talented and everybody's an A player at what they do. Um, I'm just I'm just happy to be here.
Well, that's really fabulous. Well, thank you for joining us again, and what a lovely story to start the show off with. Let's go round, let's go there. Let's go to Wendy. How you doing, Wendy? I'm always nervous to do your surname because I always
But
butcher it.
just leave it. Just leave it.
Okay,
Just
well, you've just written
Wendy
Wendy
will
on the
do.
screen, so I thought
Yeah.
I'll just say Wendy. But it's Wendy. Look, there's Wendy. As one of the lead organisers of WordCamp Europe in 2024, we'll mention that in a bit. Wendy is on top of all the news related to WordCamp Europe 2024. She has been an active part of the WordPress community since 2013.
Yeah, I was
Volunteering.
writing it. It is the anniversary this year.
Yeah. Speaking and organising
It
WordCamps
was
mainly
last
in
year.
Europe. She makes money working as a happiness engineer at WordPress.com. Yeah, I was wondering, what was going on there? Was it my maths or 10 years from
No, it
last
was
year,
last
right?
year. We've moved on a
Yeah,
year.
you're in year
It
11.
was last year.
Yeah.
I didn't celebrate, so I'm going to celebrate this year.
I honestly
Like,
can't think of many bits of software that have lasted like 11 years. You know, there's things like Microsoft Word and stuff, but WordPress 20. How did that happen? But very nice to have you with us. Thank you. We'll be talking a little bit about WordCamp Europe a little bit later. But last, to finish off our panel, there he is. It's Rob Cairns. How are you doing, Rob?
Doing well, Nathan. How are you?
Yep. Very nice. Rob's been on the show many times before. If you watch this, so you'll know a little bit about him. But here we go. Rob is the founder and chief creator of Amazing Ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. Rob is a WordPress security expert. He's a podcaster, a contributing author, and co-manager of the WordPress Global Community Group on LinkedIn, which is huge, by the way. It's truly enormous amount of people in that group. When he's not working, he enjoys reading, watching sports, and touring around Ontario. What kind of books do you like? I shouldn't say fiction. What kind of books do you like?
It varies. So I read everything from business books to fiction to science fiction. It all depends on the mood.
Oh, yeah.
And the last I looked, I had 9 books on my bedside tables.
Oh, I can't do that. I'm the start it and finish it kind. Start, finish, then move
Yeah,
on.
that's how I work. But
Yeah, but you've got 9
books
lined
to
up.
be read. Yeah.
Do you still go with the paper book, or are you happy with like the ebook, the Kindle, or something like that?
I do both, Nathan. If I'm out in the go, the Kindle on the iPad is easier to take the app. If I'm at home, it's easier. I prefer to read a paper book because that's less screen time, which is better for you before bed. So
I was having a conversation with my kids the other day, and we were all talking about what our favorite device was, bit of technology.
Mhm.
And I think a few years ago I would have said phone, but I've kind of fallen out with mobile phones, and so you know that story. But now it's my Kindle, hands down. It's the Kindle. I just see it as this like little rectangular window to knowledge, and I love it. I'm absolutely addicted. I've already read in this year. I've read 10 books in
good for
January.
you. That's
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
I don't know what's happened. I just addicted to it. As soon as my chores for the day are finished, out it comes, and I squeeze in as much reading as I can. Yeah, it's getting a bit obsessional. I need to calm down a little bit. But anyway, so we're not here to talk about that. We are here, however, to talk about WordPress, and we'll get onto that in a moment. Firstly, if you would like to leave any comments, please do that. That would be so nice. This show is infinitely better when comments come flooding in. It really is. It's lovely. And the best way to do that is to go here, wpbuilds.com/live. If you go there, you've got 2 choices. You can either use the YouTube comments, so you need to be logged into a Google account, or there's a little black rectangle in the top right of the player. And you can click on that, and that's just goes through the platform that we use. So you don't need to be logged into anything. You just type your name in, and you're off to the races. If you are watching on Facebook, you have to go here, wave.video/lives/Facebook. And that allows us to see who you are. Otherwise, you are entirely anonymous, which is fine. But sometimes it's nice to see who you are. For example, it's nice to see that Mike Cotton is here. Hi there, Mike. Nice to have you with us. He says, afternoon, everybody. Afternoon to you too. Atif is also joining us. He's saying good afternoon. Hi there, Atif. Nice to have you with us. Courtney Robertson is joining us. Good morning. Yeah, thank you. Joining us all the way from the US. And Peacher, who is often in Europe somewhere, I guess Spain, maybe, I don't know. Oh, she says, look, from Valencia, halfway down. Oh, she's totally telling us exactly where she is. That's remarkable. From Valencia, halfway down the southern coast of Spain. Just after 3 p.m., it's overcast and chilly for our taste. 14 degrees is not what we're used to. Well, Peacher, I can tell you it's -1 where I am at the moment.
I'll take the 14.
Yeah, I'll take 14 any day of the week. Peter Ingersoll will no doubt pop up and give us his weather report if all things are normal. But let's get on with the WordPressy stuff. Firstly, a little bit of promo stuff. Hope you don't mind. This is our website, wpbuilds.com. Get rid of that. If you fancy looking around what we do, please use these links. These are probably the most useful ones, the archive pages. That's where we store all the bits and pieces that we've done. So the podcast that we do on a Thursday. This show will end up on this menu here, This Week in WordPress. If you want to keep up with all that we're doing, put your address in here, your email address, and we will send you 2 emails a week, one for the show on this one, basically, and one for the show on Thursday that we release, which is a podcast. And I need to mention GoDaddy Pro, who've been sponsoring us for absolutely ages now. So thank you, GoDaddy Pro, for your continuing support. It really has helped keep the lights on. If you want to know what we're up to, head to this page. It's wpbuilds.com/schedule. And you can see all the bits and pieces that are going on this week. So we've got what we're doing now. That's this one here. And then on Wednesday, I'm speaking to Greg from a company called Omnisend, which is a platform to enable you to interact with your customers better. It's like an email marketing platform, but with bells and whistles. So we'll be doing that 2 p.m. on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we've got our regular Speed It Up show with Sabrina Zidane. I had to basically cancel everything last week, which is why it's all blank last week, because I felt like, bad, not good. But there you go, wpbuilds.com/schedule. And last quick hat tip, I did an episode this week with Jen Harris. She is an accessibility expert. So if you go here and search for episode number 358, listen to her talking to me all about the importance of accessibility. Alrighty. There we go. That's all the WordPressy stuff done. Sorry, not the WordPressy stuff, the WP Build stuff. Let's talk about core editing improvements. Anne McCarthy, as she often does, writes an article on make.wordpress.org. An important bit of the UI of your WordPress install is the ability to go back and, if you muck something up, go back to a previous revision. Honestly, I thought the revisions were pretty good as they were, but there's room for improvement, it turned out, because that's what Anne is explaining. In the latest release of Gutenberg 17.4, you can get that from the .org website. There have been some significant improvements. Essentially, rather than limiting you to, I think, something like 100 revisions, it's now paginated so that you can see absolutely every revision that's ever happened. So, if you're a one-person band, you may not need it. That's kind of me. I don't really use it. But if there's a big team, it might be good to go back through the hundreds and hundreds and so you can do that now. Also, you can add some context to those revisions. So you can write a little sort of note explaining what was going on. And also it'll give you some context by describing what was changed. So that's kind of nice. But also it will interact with the style book. So let's say that some big major change happened in the styling. You can go to the style book. And when you click through revisions, it'll show you what those revisions did to the style of that page or post or whatever it may be. So there's quite a lot there. It's one little thing, revisions, but I think it's an important thing. Robust revisions in the site editor, it's called. Do any of you three want to talk about?
I just want to say one thing about revisions, because you do need to check with your host if it is turned on for your hosting company, because there are hosting companies that turn this great little thing off. And so if you're trusting revisions, make sure you check if it is actually in your site. So
yeah, I guess it can.
I've had this experience, and it's not fun when you think I can go back and it is not there. So
Okay, thank you. Make sure they're all switched on. I mean, it probably uses up quite a bit of unnecessary space if if you've got posts dating back 20 years and you're still keeping the revisions, you never really look at them. It's maybe time to dump those, but I guess the more recent things that you're actively working on, it's kind of useful. So, Kathy, Rob, anything on that, or should we press on?
I just want to add, you got to be really careful with things like revisions with the bloat in your WordPress database. Like, we got to be really careful that we maintain that database and the database doesn't get bigger, and we make sure we clean it up. Just food for thought. Every time we get into something like this, the database is going to grow a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I when I'm typically making these posts, I probably save it about 50 or 60 times because I add the news stories one at a time, and each time I drop it in, because I'm a bit of a fearful thing, I like to click save draft, just because then I know it's got that one and I don't have to go back and repeat the work. And my workflow means that I delete links that I've put in and all that kind of stuff. So it's really important that that whole system is working. And I like I say, I probably per post create about 60 or 70 revisions, which is a bit absurd. I really do need to clean those out. But yeah, sage advice. Thank you for that. Kathy, anything before we move on?
Yeah, as collaboration comes into WP admin and more people are working together on things, I think things like making sure that revision, being able to like clearly delineate where revisions are happening is really important. So I love that this is happening as collaboration is coming on board.
That's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about it from that point of view. But in, like, for example, in the Google Docs interface, they do revisions really well, I think. You roll it back and you can see exactly what was done and they highlight it and all that. That is going to be really important, isn't it? Especially if there's like 4 or 5 people editing at once and you've got no oversight into who saved what and when did they save it and, which bits went where. Yeah, that's going to become giant, isn't it? This is going to be a really thorny problem for the team, because imagine if there's 3 people editing at once and somebody moves a paragraph up and then somebody moves it down again and there's this tennis going on of up down and people deleting things and adding things all over the place. It's going to be really hard. Maybe it'd have to be a per user review.
It sounds like the team though is really thinking through like how impactful this might be. So I'm glad they're thinking about it, so I don't have to.
Go and have a look at this little video that Anne put together. It's only a minute and a half or so long, but it gives you a real insight into what we're talking about. And it's good, like you say, somebody's actually thinking about it. So that's really useful. Okay. All right, moving on. This is news, I guess, but there's not a lot to say. It really is just a hat tip to the people who have stepped up to be the WordPress 6.5 release squad. You can see the names there. There are some very familiar names. So, for example, the release lead is Matt, and that's sort of fairly to be expected. We just mentioned Anne, but there's quite a few people who've been on this show before. But you can see it's broken up into release lead, coordinators, core tech leads, editor tech leads, core triage leads, editor triage leads, design, marketing and communication, documentation, performance, test, and default themes lead. Now, I don't know if that role is a role that existed in the past because I've never really inspected it too closely. But it does say in the paragraph below, this release squad introduces the experimental default lead role. So I'm guessing this is a new one. And that's because of the need to update past default themes due to changes introduced in releases. So if that is a new one, it looks like Carolina Nymark is taking on the role of that. But essentially, big thanks to all these people, whether they're paid contributors or how that's all working. Just thank you for taking the time and the effort to do that work for us. It's scheduled. Beta 1 is February the 13th, so it's coming up. Feels like we just got this one shipped, and we're on the rack of a new one. Anything for there before I move on? Okie doke. All righty. Let's move on to this one. I think this one's really interesting. It's Josepha, who's obviously the executive director of the WordPress project. And whenever Josepha writes something down about the project in general, I think it's worth listening to. She talks about the goals for the next year. I expect many of you, if you watch this show regularly, a lot of this will be common knowledge, but it's nice to have it all summed up. She does make the point right at the top that it's not an exhaustive set of lists, because it's bound to change as things happen during the course of 2024. But here are the different bits and pieces which are going to receive the most attention this year. That's the intention anyway. Phase 3 of the Gutenberg project, as we were just talking about, that's going to be interactivity, document collaboration, that kind of thing. Think Google Docs, the idea of being able to multiple people logged in at the same time, changing the same thing. How that'll work, we've yet to see. Then we move to community, another rung of this ladder. Community support, to support the community through learning, events, and mentorship of current and future contributors. We'll develop on these in a moment. And then address, this is ecosystem it comes under, address the difficulty in moving platforms through data liberation. That seems to have come out of nowhere in the last few months, and now it seems to be what everybody's talking about. And we'll see in a moment that there's this, not fear, but WordPress's user base has, I think Josefa used the word stagnated. I think, well, that was, yeah, there we go. Look, growth over the last year over year, new installations, it's become stagnant. So I guess an easy win there would be, well, why not make it so that you can get Joomla websites instantly transferred into WordPress websites and Shopify and all the other things, all the other bits and pieces, as well as making it easy to port your own data to another WordPress website. But the idea really here is to grow WordPress, I guess, to get that 43% up to 44 and beyond. And the idea also in terms of events is to not make typical WordPress events the flavor in the future. So WordCamps that you've been to, Josefa describes it here as one size fits all. That was the strategy in the past. The idea in the future is to have more advanced topics and more focused events, which can meet the community where it is. So I don't know, as an example, it might be an SEO event or a security related event or something like that. Whether that'll work, I'm not entirely sure. But they are the things, they are the big focuses for the next period of time. And again, over to you three, if you've got anything you want to throw in there.
I am super excited about data liberation because I see so much opportunity out there. I mean, think about all of the various web tools that you use. And we have like learning management systems, LearnDash, Lifter LMS, all of these different LMS systems. But we also have, hosted solutions, SaaS solutions like Teachable and whatnot, and tons of people who are finding success there. But then again, you're growing your business in a walled garden. Wouldn't it be great if we could find ways to help people who are using web-based SaaS tools to come over to WordPress to give them more freedom and flexibility? And then I think about like other tools like Miro boards, the web-based tool where people can do all of that kind of fun stuff. Wouldn't it be cool if there was somebody created a plugin that allowed people to do that within WordPress? That gives them more opportunity to just get out of these walled gardens. There's so many of them. And it's not just, LMS systems. It's not just Shopify versus WooCommerce. There's tons of web-based systems and tons of opportunity for creative plugin developers to go out there and say, wow, this tool is really great. And tons of people are using Figma. How do we bring the Figma experience into WordPress so that people are designing closer to what they're actually putting on the web, that type of thing, so that web-based tools, no matter how far away from web publishing they might seem, you can bring them over to WordPress. And I think that kind of innovation and creativity is ripe, and there's plenty of opportunity for creative plugin developers to create a new business based on that.
We actually, we talked about this the other day, and I'll just give everybody, if you haven't heard about this project, it was sort of, the first I'd come across it anyway was during State of the Word in December last year. I mean, obviously it's been on people's minds for a long time, but it hadn't really surfaced to me, at least anyway. The idea is to create I think really a one-click solution for a typical website. Obviously if you've got like a Joomla website with a billion different bits of custom code, then you're probably out of luck. But a typical one-click solution for importing a website, for example, straight from Squarespace, Tumblr. That's interesting. You can see the connection, maybe the automatic connections there, isn't it? HTML, if you've just got a static HTML site, import that. An RSS feed, Wix, Drupal, Blogger, and then this one, which captures my attention, just because I've been using WordPress for everything, always, forever anyway. This feels almost like a built-in migration system. So rather than having to rely on a third-party plugin to do that heavy lifting, or, getting the command line or whatever. The idea would be that there'd be a way of doing that inside of WordPress to take, I don't know, if you're moving host or if you just want to try something different out. But then if you click on the view all guides, here they all are, Avada, which is a theme, to take it to core blocks. So this is a big promotion on just core blocks. Contentful, I don't even know what that is, but it's a thing. Divi, another one. So Divi to core blocks, Elementor to core blocks, Cadence to core blocks. And then WooCommerce product to, I don't know what that one is. It's gone off the page to WordPress, it just says. And then WP Bakery to core blocks as well. I don't know how the community feel about that one. The idea of making a native solution to take from an already existing solution like Divi or Cadence or what have you into something else. But yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Rob, Wendy, anything?
It's interesting when you read Giuseppe's goals, and I think what's going to really impact those goals this coming year is AI. I hate to go there. Like we can't have a conversation around web development or marketing without mentioning those two letters anymore. And I really, as Kathy laughs at me again because she knows where I'm going. And the problem we've got right now is AI is changing on such an astronomical front every day. And I really think a lot of the collaboration stuff we're doing in WordPress and things like that, AI is going to impact it more than people think. And so I think those goals, I think the WordPress team needs to be prepared to adjust those goals as we go, because a lot of stuff might become non-relevant by the time AI is finished. You look at stuff Microsoft's doing, you look at OpenAI, you look at what Google's doing. And people like friends of ours in the space like Bertha and things like that. It's just mind-boggling.
Tim Nash has just dropped in a comment. He says, "You can, Rob. It's easy not to mention it. It's so easy.
Tim.
It's everywhere. You open up the newspaper, there's AI absolutely everywhere." I just want to mention this. I mean, how did I not? I'm so sorry, Wendy. Jose is just loving the sweater. If you're listening to this, which is how it's consumed by most people, Wendy's wearing a fabulous sweater with all sorts of red fruit on it. And look, here's me in the most boring outfit imaginable, black and grey, and there's Wendy livening our lives up a little bit. So appreciate it. Wendy, tell us about your thoughts on these WordPress events, because I know that's a big part of your experience in the WordPress community. What do you reckon?
Sorry, what? I'm still on the sweater thing.
That's not going away. Should we dissect the sweater for a few more minutes? You can tell us exactly.
I'm just so happy with my sweater. It's actually new. It's the second time I'm wearing it, and I'm super happy with it.
It's great. It's really great. I think we should all applaud the sweater. Can we have lots of pleasant comments, please, from everybody about the sweater? I think it would make Wendy's day. She's obviously delighted.
Yeah, I'm already delighted with my sweater. So
yeah. If anybody said anything, yeah. Oh, I wish there was an intermission in the show. I would go and change, and I don't know, put something else on, a bit more sparkly. Go for it. WordPress events. What do you make of it? Are you worried about this new thing? Do you think the one size fits all thing that we got right now is working? Don't break what isn't. What is it? Don't fix what isn't broken, or something like that.
I think it's interesting. I am very for diversifying a bit, because it is really hard to serve everybody in one event. And I also think that events like WordCamp, like the bigger WordCamps, WordCamp Europe, WordCamp Asia coming up soon, those are also, at least for me and for a lot of people I know, a big part of that is hanging out with people. So it might be, that could also be diversifying. I mean, smaller WordCamps and bigger WordCamps might have a different goal or a different audience and serve a different purpose. So yeah, why not? I would love to do, for example, a beginner's WordCamp where it's just people who just started working with WordPress.
Oh, there you go, Wendy. That's an idea I hadn't heard. Everything seemed to be niching in on the like the super niche, like the SEO or whatever it might be. But that's really interesting. An idea, just an event just for beginners. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm back to the sweater. I'm not taking my head off that. Love the sweater too. Can't stop thinking of Pac-Man, says.
I see a show title coming.
Yeah, I can. Now, Thomas. Hi, Thomas. We had Thomas on the podcast several months ago now. I don't know what a golf clap is. What's a golf clap? Any intuition? Anybody on the panel? What's a golf clap? Anyway, golf clap for the sweater. I guess that's a good thing. Peacher says, I had met the cherries and berries sweater last week already and loved it. There you go. How the heck does that happen? How can there be somebody in our comments in Spain, which is like 3,000 miles or something away from you?
Well, let me tell you about that because Pecha is my accountability buddy. She has been for years.
Okay.
And we meet each other every Friday morning and we catch up and we do a bit of how are you doing and what's going on in your life. And yeah, that was the first time I wore the sweater and this is the second time.
You dropped the sweater bomb into Peach's Zoom call. It was the highlight of her week.
Yep.
Cherry gold. Sorry, cherry good sweater. It's a cherry good sweater. What does that mean? I don't know what a golf clap is or what cherry good is. Cherry good a brand? I don't know. I swear I wrote the comment, but I cannot find it. So Maya apparently wrote a comment about the sweater, but it's gone missing. Patricia, hang tight. We're going to talk about something of yours.
She has very interesting.
Oh, it's lovely. We're coming to it soon. Yeah. She likes Wendy as well. She's managed to squeeze in an icon of a strawberry. This is going totally off piste, isn't it? But I'm enjoying it. From an old Charlie Sheen movie with his brother Emilio Estevez. Okay, that's what a golf is, I'm guessing. Okie doke. All right. Well, let's see how those events transpire. I'm a bit nervous, to be honest, because I think the WordPress community already it's not the biggest thing in the world. And if you put these events and then you make them smaller, I just don't know what that's going to do for actual physical real world attendance, because getting people to come out for a WordPress event is quite hard. But the
thing is, we do have a lot of room for new people that are not currently visiting the events because they might be too afraid or they might not be interested in the topics, and that might come to more niche down events.
You're right. Well, let's wait and see. 2024. We'll wait and see what happens during.
It's an interesting experiment.
Yeah, I think so. You've got to change things as well, haven't you? Once in a while. So let's see how that goes. Data liberation. You can find that, by the way, if you want to look for it. You can go to wordpress.org/data-liberation, and you'll be able to find it there. Okay, here we are. I said it would be coming, and it was the next item on the list. So Patricia, who's in the comments. That's nice. Nice when you get to have somebody in the comments about something they've written. This is a proposal which Patricia has written off the back of a plugin project. It's bigger than a plugin, really. And it is really revolving around the whole meetup thing. Now, if you're an attendee of WordPress events like WordPress meetups, you'll have run into Meetup, the platform, meetup.com. And typically, if you want to run a WordPress event, you have to go through the Meetup platform. Now, as an end user, that is to say, I show up to events. I've never run an event, so I've never had to administer the back end. But Tim, who's in the comments, Tim Nash was in the other week, and I know a variety of people who do organize it. The universal opinion seems to be that Meetup is not great. Can I encapsulate it like that, Wendy? It's not great enough, or does it need to go? Do I need to be more strong with my language?
No, not great. It's fine.
Okay. So
it's limited. It does what it needs to do. It doesn't have, for example, you can't style your texts. You can only add one image. The basic functionality works pretty well, actually. You can create an event and people can sign up, which is what it's supposed to do.
But it's not to everybody's liking, and a lot of people seem to dislike it. Well, wouldn't it be great if there was some sort of, I don't know, let's call it a content management system, which could power an alternate. Oh, wait, there is, and it's called WordPress, and there's a plugin which has been put together by, and I'm going to read it off my piece of paper, Mike Orteri. And I suspect there's other people involved in the background, but I'm just going to mention Mike's name. I did a podcast episode with him, which will be coming out on Wednesday, all about this
Patricia
project.
is very involved in this too.
Oh, is she? Okay, so Petra as well. That's great. There's probably a list of names, isn't there? A little bit further down. But this is something called GatherPress, and it's basically a WordPress swap out for Meetup. Now, the intention really over the next period of time is to test it out. And if I remember what Mike said correctly, the idea is to get people who are running events to do the event in parallel. So have it running on Meetup, but at the same time run it on GatherPress and see how it works and sort of move this project forward. And then have a decentralized, kind of federated maybe at some point. So all of the instances can join together. You might just have one login instead of need to log in into the, I don't know, Phoenix or Brighton or Bristol or London Meetup website. And so the pilot program needs your help. It really looks like a mature project. So here's the benefits, here's the pros and the cons. The benefits are members and attendees data lives on your website and database. Community organizers define privacy policies, selectively publish attendee lists, gather additional data from attendees, etc. It fosters democratized access to data and functionality as WordPress is customizable. It's open source, and you could add a whole bunch of other things to that, couldn't you? You know, you could extend the platform yourself if you felt that there was some need for your particular event. You can style it as Wendy just said, and they are looking for your help. I will put a link to the show notes, but you can see the page there, Patricia's page, proposal, pilot program to test GatherUp on WordPress.org network as a Meetup alternative. So there we go, Patricia. I hope.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to sign up for the meetup that I do in my city every month. So.
Yeah, and run it in parallel. Yep.
Yeah, just see how it works and see how it goes and contribute to moving away from Meetup and to a more open source alternative.
I think maybe
that would be great.
Yeah, I think throwing into the mix here would be the fact that Meetup was just very recently, like, I don't know, 10 days ago or something. It was announced that it had been acquired by a company called Bending Spoons, who are behind a bunch of SaaS projects. They also acquired Evernote recently. And maybe there's some alarm bells there, like you don't know what's going to happen. You know, will it just sort of sit and gather dust? And if it's not profitable, they'll junk it. I don't know, but there's that in the mix as well. So Kathy and Rob, I'll talk for too long. Sorry. Anything on that?
Well, I think Rob was mentioning before that ever since WeWork, I believe, got
WeWork owned it.
Yeah, ever since then, Meetup has just kind of been. I've just sort of wondered about the long-term viability of it, and so because of that, I'm really happy to see that we're developing some of our own solutions for our community, and I think that could help other communities as well. So it's very exciting to see.
Yeah, Rob,
I think it's why aren't we again developing these solutions in WordPress? So it's the old, why do you use WooCommerce and not Shopify? Why do you use Groundhog and not ConvertKit? You know, that type of solution. And we have an open source and we're democratizing publishing. So this is ideal just to bring back in-house and develop a solution right inside WordPress to do it. So well done.
I think I haven't really paraphrased what Mike said. He really came across as a very thoughtful person, and there has been a lot of thought for a long time behind this, and I think they've got to the point now where they think they've got something ready to go. But you can listen to his thoughts on why he would like this to become a thing inside of WordPress. And it really does seem like a proper community endeavor. I didn't, he told me the number of dollars that are spent every year on Meetup, and I can't remember what it was, but I think it was 230. I'm very close when I say this. I think it's $234,000 go from the foundation. I don't know actually where the money comes from, but in some way, WordPress, the community at large, pay $234,000 to Meetup every year, and we have the CMS that could power this to be done for our own incentives. So yeah, okay. There we go. Right. Okay. Let's move on, shall we? Nothing else to add about that.
Imagine all the things we could do with that money for the greater good. If
Yeah,
we
I'm
don't
thinking a
need to
water
use-
slide in my back garden. That would be really good.
Ah.
No? Any votes for the water slide in Nathan's? Okay. No hands. Just Nathan's
I've
hand.
been joking around in getting a pool outside of the WordCamp Europe venue just
Yeah.
for fun
Yeah.
with a inflatable flamingo and
Oh, yeah.
Well,
If you stand next to an inflatable flamingo with that sweater on,
Oh,
I'm there.
no.
I am there. Oh.
There's the show title right there.
That's right. Oh, it goes off the rails so quickly. But that sounds fun. If anybody can think of a useful way to spend that money, please let me know. Answers on a postcard. I spoke to Michelle Frechette. I normally speak to Michelle on Slack, and she's obviously on this show an awful lot as one of the co-hosts, as is Kathy. But she decided to do an episode with me this week all about advocating for diversity in the WordPress community. It's on the WP Tavern website, which will hopefully be coming back to life at some point in the near future. I realize it's kind of ground to a halt from a journalistic point of view. But never fear, the podcast is still there. It's in the main menu, look, right at the top. Just click on podcasts, and look, there I am, beavering away. And the most recent one is me and Michelle having a chat about diversity. You know Michelle's take on all of this, and she explains her position very, very thoughtfully, very, very carefully. And I think you'd be hard pushed to listen to that and not find it a reasonable set of incentives. So, and if you've got anything to add to that, I don't suppose you had a chance to listen to it, but if you've got anything you want to say it now, or we'll move on.
Michelle's awesome.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I agree with it. I second that, so I'm there.
There was a really, she wrote about, do you remember when she went to WordCamp in San Diego, WordCamp US in San Diego? And one of the things that really spurred her on was when she basically couldn't access various different things in the auditorium, not in the auditorium, but
the hotel.
The hotel, and she couldn't get a shower and all this sort of stuff. And I think it got the crusader spirit in her. And then she made a bunch of suggestions, which, some people had one side of an opinion on, and some people had another. But then more recently, she attended WordCamp Asia, and I think was pretty bowled over by how impressive it had been. And I think the same could have been said for WordCamp Athens as well. I think she had the same opinion there. Yeah. Okay.
She and I talk pretty often about just disability in general. Just, my husband had a stroke a couple of years ago, and so our crusade is that everyone in the world is one crappy event away from having accessibility be the most important thing in that person's life. So we kind of owe it to it for those of us that, went for a run this morning and are having like all of the physical abilities in the world. We owe it to those who don't, to watch out for them and to care for them. So I love that she's crusading on this.
And Kathy, it's not just I had a stroke or I had a heart attack. It's even our aging population. Like I see it with my mom. My mom's 79 years old, and there's things that she gets frustrated that she can't do that she could do 10 years ago. And these are just regular tasks. And, she's in good health, but the reality of it is accessibility is not just about disabilities. It's about everything in our changing bodies and our changing world. And that's part of it too.
So true. Yeah. I mean, my mom aging as well and has had a few incidents with falls and whatnot. And in conversations with her, the thing that it just happened overnight. It's like overnight I lost this. Overnight my balance was gone. Overnight it just feels like it happens all at once. My daughter's been dragging me to the gym, and so like they make me do physical therapy or physical training, which is great and everything. But oh my gosh, even at my age, it's like I can see how balance, like I have to work for it right now, and it's scary how fast it can go. So I love the fact that you're bringing it up about aging populations, because guess what? We're all going there. We're all aging. We're all getting older. And to set up systems that are supportive for all of us when we get there is really
Yeah.
important.
It's simple little things like opening a jar. You know what I mean? Or, my mom went and got a new exercise bike and spent 10 minutes on the bike and then was sore for 4 days, the first time in years. And then she's saying, why shouldn't be sore after 10 minutes? And we're like, yeah, you should be. Like, and it's an acceptance factor too, and saying, hey, I need help versus I'm frustrated, right? That's part of it as well. So
I've decided I'm not going to age in 2024. I'm just going to say no to it and
Yeah,
see
I'm
what
going that way as
see
well.
what happens.
Not happening this
got a
year.
feeling that's not going to land so well. Courtney, a lovely comment. She said, instead of funding the swimming pools, which would be fantastic from my point of view anyway, let's do something to pay for the recently announced WC Canada.
that
What?
is true.
Cool.
I didn't know there was.
Second week of July in Ottawa, Ontario, actually.
Oh,
Is this
WordCamp
so? This is brand
Canada.
new, right?
Yeah, it just got announced and just got approved. And it was
Wow.
announced on Friday or Thursday, something last week.
I missed that one. I don't know how I missed that, but okay, that's going to go next week's show in that case.
So I'm in Canada too, Nathan, and I
Yeah.
missed it. And thanks to Marcus and a text message, that's how I didn't miss it. So there you go.
Ontario.
Yep, in Ottawa, our nation's
Ottawa.
capital.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, that's great. Okay, all right. All right. Reluctantly, I'll give up the pool. And
Thank you, Nathan.
yeah.
Now I'll bring my own inflatable flamingo. I'll be fine.
Just bring the sweater too, Wendy.
It was a tough thing to give up, but I can take one for the team. Oh dear. Right. Okay. Moving on. So we were just talking about meetups and the fact that it might be a nice idea to build meetups on a different platform. But for now, what we've got is still meetups. And so let's talk about one which is coming up, which I'm encouraging people to get involved with. So developer hours. This is coming up on February the 27th, 2024. You got a whole month, but you can sign up now. It's going to be Justin Tadlock and Ryan Welcher talking about how to build modern layouts with WordPress blocks. There's not a lot more to say about that other than there it is. You can find it on meetup.com. Alrighty. Okay, still on events. We've got a lot of event talk today. WordCamp Asia need contributor day help. Dear listener, if you've never attended a WordCamp or before, typically one of the days, either before or after the main 2-day event, is this thing called Contributor Day. And you show up and you often have to get a ticket. It's free, right? But you have to get one because places are limited and they need to know how much food to put out. Although that sometimes doesn't work and loads more people show up and have to halve the food and all that, which is fun. Was that in Porto? I think
Yes,
instead of 300 people showing up, 600. Yeah. So the food had to be eked out, which was quite a nice thing to do for each other. Anyway, so WordCamp Asia have obviously got their contributor day, but it does look like they're in need of a little bit of help getting the table leads sorted out. And what they need is somebody who can be the facilitator of the community table. So this is a real one. If you're not into code but you like community, this could be for you. It says the table lead will be the facilitator of the community table. Community table often has various topics to discuss and work on. For example, your role would include some of the following things: onboarding new contributors who are interested in the community team, facilitate a topic that could be or proposed to be discussed during WordCamp Asia, help us create a recap of what was discussed during this event, and meetups and WordCamp orientation and budget reviews. You can see it on the screen. But it feels like maybe maybe somebody stepped down. I really don't know. Or maybe they just never managed to fill that gap. But they want that gap.
It's always hard for most WordCamps, especially the bigger ones where they have loads of tables, to find enough table leads available to actually take on the role. It's
do you have any intuition, Wendy, as to how
WordCamp
much?
Europe, we kind of struggle as well.
Oh, do you have any intuition as to how much time like? Is that quite a lengthy? If you volunteered for that role, do you have any sort of rough idea of the amount you'd need to put in?
Yeah, it would be the entire contributor day because you will be leading the conversation and wrapping up and getting on stage and sharing the results and onboarding new people and getting them in meetup so they can organize their own local meetups. Yeah, so it is, you will be quite busy during contributor day.
What about the bits and the pieces prior? Do you have to show up to a lot of Zoom meetings and things like that? Because obviously you wouldn't be able to just show up on contributor day and lead the table. I guess there'd be a lot in the
I
background.
don't think so.
Mm.
I don't really know what is, I think it also differs per team. So that might be a good question for the comments on that post. So
Yeah.
someone
Okay.
who is
If any,
involved can answer because I don't really know.
it's rare that we get somebody from that part of the world commenting on it. Well, that's not true. It does happen, but it's kind of, the bit of the day where we're all awake has kind of been and gone a bit. So, but if there is anybody from that part of the world who has any intuitions in that, or indeed have just, done that kind of a role before and you want to put in your 5 cents, please feel free. Okay. Rob earlier was talking about AI. I'm going to model up the order a little bit, our panelists, and tell me what you make of this team. So my position on AI is I've no idea. Maybe it'll be the death of us all. Maybe it'll be the best thing that's ever happened. I'm not sure. But Elementor, you know them, right? The page builder, giant user base, truly enormous user base. They've come up with a new thing, and it's called web-based containers with AI. Now, forgive me, I'm not going to do this justice, but I'm going to try and explain it in the best way that I can. So the idea is that you build rows, if you like, containers. So just think of a horizontal row with all of the bits like a header, or I don't know, a call to action, or a contact form, or I don't know, about us row or something like that. And the idea is that you go to the Elementor website that you've got, you add in a URL of something that you've seen online that you like the look of. You then highlight the section that you wish to reference so that it's not doing the entire page. I want Elementor to give me something akin to this. Once you've done that, you write a little prompt, as you always do with AI, giving it some more, knowledge about what it is that you want to come out. So on the screen, they're saying adapt this for a home decor website, and then you basically push a button. The AI overlords go into overtime, do some stuff. Nobody actually knows what they do, but they do things, and then they spit out 3 designs for you to pick, and you say that one or that one or that one, and maybe there's a way to sort of do it all again if it didn't come out. So that's the premise of it. So it's like a real shortcut to seeing something that you like, an Elementor, presumably with the layouts and the different capabilities they've got for designing things. They build that in the background for you to mimic it. Now, I don't know what I make of this. From a technological point of view, I think it's brilliant. What a great idea. Like, just whoever conceived that and then thought, actually, we can do it, that is just technically brilliant. My concern is that is it theft? No, that's too strong. I don't mean that. Is it too easy? Is it just making life too easy? Are we sort of cutting out the design chops that you need? I don't know. What do you guys think? It's definitely brilliant, but I'm just not sure what I think about it. I'm being a curmudgeon. I apologize. Right, over to you. Take it from me and tell me.
Can I jump in there,
Yeah,
Nathan?
please do.
And throw my 2 cents out. So I do think it's brilliant. I think the whole tech around AI is brilliant. So what we got to remember right off the top is AI tools are tools to help us do our business. And any tool can be used properly or misused. So keep that in mind. So the way I kind of sit is I can just see the copyright issues coming out of this like nothing, like people grabbing websites, designers saying, oh, I'm just going to grab this website because it looks good. Here you go. Here's your $1,000. And we know in the media industry right now, the New York Times is involved in a pile of AI lawsuits right now with OpenAI and Microsoft. And the reason these suits are going on is they're testing the waters to see where we all stand. And the problem is, I don't know with a tool like this, like frankly, if you say, grab my website and then sell that as your own, I consider that theft. So there is that problem too. So it's, what do we do with using the tool properly to, the whole copyright theft misuse part? That's kind of where I sit.
Interesting. Okay.
To me, it takes all the fun out of building websites.
Yes.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I genuinely haven't a clue which way I need to sit on this. It's almost like I am sitting on the fence. Well, I am, because I can't commit to whether I think it's good or bad. There's some bit of me which thinks, no, that we shouldn't be doing this because we're just mimicking designs. But then don't we do that already? And in fact, we find a bit of a website that we like and we mimic it, but we have to sort of build it ourselves. And obviously, this whole debate 10 years ago was these page builders. What a stupid idea. No, let's do it the WordPress way. We'll use all these lovely template files and we'll get really good at PHP and we'll be fabulous at doing all of that. And, now we've got all these tools and we can't imagine letting go of them. And the block editors enabling all of this and all these suites of blocks.
Kathy, can you see the security issues coming out of this? Like I'm looking at comments and we got both Tom Reef and Tim Hash in there as well. And you and I on the panel. And I'm already thinking, if you move all this code, what security issues are going to happen with all this code? Like it just boggles my mind, right?
Yeah, well, they're just, what are they doing? They're just basically view source and taking the raw HTML, CSS, and then building off of that, right? But the thing, when I first built websites, the coolest thing was to come across something new and say, how did they do this? And looking at the source code, and then can I do this myself? And so there was like this creative, can I take this innovative new design, and can I do this myself? Can I build this out myself? To say, hey, AI, can you go take this design and build it? It takes kind of that fun, that creativity, that spark of wanting to learn something new, and gives it to a machine to do, and you lose out on the ability to, because when you take something that somebody else has done, I remember when I was first designing, and there was this guy who was he did stuff with frames really creatively, and I wanted to see, like, could I do this too? And so I built out this really funky website using all these frames and everything. And I didn't build what he built. I built based on the creativity that was spurred from investigating how he did it and taking it to the next level, and then adding my own creativity to it. Just taking something from someplace else and saying, do this, it's so completely boring. It stifles innovation. It stifles creativity. You have to add something back to it. And every conversation I have with ChatGPT ends up with, well, you almost had it there, but I'm adding my own to it. It has to be, if you just let elementary AI just like copy, it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't spur your own growth as a creator, as a developer, as a designer. So I would say that if you're going to do something like this, find out how you inject yourself back into the end project. Otherwise we're doomed. Otherwise, what's the fun of that?
I like that answer. Yeah, that's kind of, you've encapsulated a lot of what I think there. That works for me. But I think the bit which I find weird here, which maybe this has happened in other cases, but I can't remember it. The bit that I find here is you are being actively told to go out and find other websites so that you can mimic that bit of their website, which, it's fine, I guess. But that, I don't know. I'm still confused. I'm still confused. But I agree. There's something about the learning, something about hollowing out the way that you get into this career. So when we all did it, I say we, I'm going to assume that all of us are we're older than 25, right? Can we all agree to that? Okay.
We're older than 40.
Yeah. I went low, but you had to, you literally had to learn it, right? There were a few books that were out on web design, but the curiosity came from doing it all. And there's a whole generation of people who've had that level of curiosity and then picked themselves up, taught themselves, or been through some sort of college program or something. And I do wonder if these tools are hollowing out that base layer of the industry, where in 10 years' time, we're going to turn around and say, where are all the people that we need with all the really difficult skills? Well, they haven't come through because they just got hijacked at the bottom level, if that makes sense. So it's almost like, you've taken the bottom row of the pyramid out and you're just waiting for it to collapse. Again, bit of a doom-mongery sort of approach there, but that's the bit that confuses me.
The biggest
Starting
problem
with
with
blank,
these. Go ahead, Kathy. Sorry.
yeah, I was just going to say, starting with the blank screen is terrible. It's terrible. You need something
Right.
to inspire
Yep.
you. So you need to take from other people's creativity and then add yourself into it. I'm not saying like the blank screen and then like some lightning bolt comes out of the sky and you're automatically like an HTML genius and writing all of the CSS. No, your inspiration is going to come from somewhere, but don't make the if you give too much away to the machine, you lose out on the ability to learn. You lose out on your own inspiration, because it's not until you're in there fighting with CSS and gosh darn it, I'm putting important in there. I'm not going to fight with this anymore. Right.
Yeah.
It's not until you do that kind of stuff that, like, going through the hard stuff is where inspiration and where creativity happens. If you make it too easy for yourself, you lose out.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that exactly the difference between? Oh, sorry, Rob, you were first.
It's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Isn't that exactly the difference between the people that grinded to get to know how WordPress worked and how you could tweak it, and the people that bought a theme somewhere and just filled it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an important point as well. Yeah.
I mean, the people that are interested in working with this, who want to copy exactly like it was, will do that anyway if they have the option, and they do now with Elementor and probably with other tools. The people that want to learn and want to tweak it and want to adjust it just a little bit, they will grind it out, and they will find the tools to, and the technique and the knowledge. They will surface as the next people building the agencies and building the WordPress.
I think
businesses.
You're right. I think I'm being a bit of a snob. I think on some level I'm being a bit protective of the industry that I'm in, and I'm of an age where change is alarming, right?
Yeah,
because it's hard, especially when you get to over 25, like I am. You get a little bit set in your ways, don't you? And new things come along, and you just think, So maybe I need to address that. Feature makes a good point in the comment, though. She says that, okay, so just because you copied and pasted, in effect, a solution from somebody else's website that was tailored, hopefully by a pro, to work in their business, it probably won't work in your business. So
good point.
That's an interesting point. Sorry, Rob, did you get your say?
Yeah, no, that's okay. The biggest problem here is if we copy and paste and we don't understand how to do things, and we create this whole new generation of designers, and I saw this in my support career. How do you work yourself out of a problem if you're somebody coming up and all you know is AI and how to copy and paste? You don't know how to troubleshoot. You don't know how to work out a WordPress site that's not working properly. And this is a problem. I saw this 15 years ago in support. Kids are being taught linear. And the minute you throw a curveball in the middle, they look at you and say, excuse me, I'm stuck. You think they were stuck 15 years ago. They're going to be stuck now, because they're not going to have that foundation. They don't know how to install WordPress from scratch. Remember the 5-minute install that we all did?
Oh, yeah.
And things
Never
like
5
that.
minutes.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is if they don't have fundamentals, the tools are great, but you still got to have a base, right?
Yeah. It was kind of interesting. About 10 years ago in the UK, the UK government decided that the children going through the schooling system were basically being taught how to use products in their computer science classes. So they were being taught how to manipulate data in spreadsheets, and they were taught how to, I don't know, use Word documents and things. That's not very grandiose, but you get the point. It was, here's a product that's already built. Let's just get really good at that. And then some bright spark thought, no, this is crazy. We should be teaching them how to code. And so they ripped up that manual And then they just went all like into Raspberry Pi and coding. And honestly, I don't know how that's worked out, because presumably that generation are just starting to come through into the job market. But it was interesting that they thought that using tools wasn't enough. You needed a more foundational technical knowledge, so that when something couldn't be achieved with the tools that you've got, you could build the tool. And and it feels a little bit like maybe this is, it's a different audience, like Wendy says,
Yeah, and I think that is always the case. There are people who are interested enough to find out how to build the tools, and there is the big bulk of people who don't really care. They just want to have it look like the way they want it to look, and they feel extremely satisfied with copy pasting whatever is already around.
I'm going to throw in a curveball. So this wasn't meant to be in the show, but it feels like this conversation is just perfect. So since 2016, I've done this podcast with David Wormsley. Great stuff. We've done I don't know.
You AI'd him?
He was never real. That's what I've got to tell you. He was never real. He was always a figment of my imagination. I can do his voice really well. No,
I always figured, because
we were never visible at the same time.
I mean, who could imagine those two names together?
Well, so he's kind of decided that he doesn't want to use a CMS anymore, and he came to me and he said, "Should we do another podcast?" So this has got nothing to do with WP Builds, but I'll put it on the screen because it's kind of interesting. We've launched a podcast called The No Script Web Show, and it's basically about teaching ourselves the things that we should have learned over the last 10 years that we haven't learned because we've allowed ourselves to become de-skilled. So we've recorded 3 episodes so far. Really, all that we've done is we've laid the groundwork. And what it boils down to is browsers, HTML, CSS. That's it. And that's going to be the endeavor. And this website, which is very, very, very Spartan, each episode that we do, we're going to add a bit to the website based upon what we've learned during the course of that episode, if you know what I mean. So if we touch on something like, I don't know, how do you implement it so that you can do light mode and dark mode with a toggle using just CSS, then we'll add that to the website and what have you. And it is completely flat. It's HTML, CSS. It's built without a CMS at all. And we've managed to do, like I said, 3 episodes so far. And we've mapped out the first 12. Things like color options, web images, CSS interactivity, typography. And you can find it at noscript.show. There's a plug. I'm sorry.
Totally unstoppable.
Nice. I love it.
I'm hoping it'll be fun.
I really like the angle of it. I am definitely going to listen to it.
Yeah,
but also, Nathan, how many podcasts are you going to create?
Well, 85, I think, is my target. No, this one's great because half of the battle on doing a podcast is finding the right person. I think if you're going to do it as a co-host thing, and him and I just get along so well. It's just not a chore. It's just so straightforward and easy. And he really is on a mission to learn this stuff. So I'm the poor relation in this, in that he's learning. He's then teaching me on the show and then building the website. So I'm learning vicariously through the podcast, but it has been really interesting. Anyway, there you go. noscript.show. I can't tell you that the website is in any way perfect. It's very basic at the moment because we've hardly done anything. But man alive, the stuff that is coming down the CSS spec, it's awesome. What the browser will be able to do with just CSS and HTML is going to be pretty incredible, especially complicated layouts with grid and all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, there you go. Right. So what have we got? We've got a few more comments. James Kemp's joining us. He says, hi there, James. I'm picturing Frankenstein's web pages. If they're using AI to design sections on a single page, will they be cohesive? And that's a good point. Yeah. Will I consider how to get the information across in the most cohesive way? Yeah, that's a really good point. You can imagine like a layer cake of just totally contrasting designs with different color palettes and fonts. And maybe they've thought of that and they've got like a limited color palette. I don't know, but that's a really good point. And Atif says, as much as I agree, where is the line? I grew up in an era where you bought a PC, you had to assemble it literally. But this is not the scene today. Is it relevant or needed? I'm not sure. Good point. Yep. Okay. Keep the comments coming. Enjoying it. And let's move on. I've forgotten where we are now. Where did we get to? Okay, here we go. We'll go to these two. I don't know if these are new, but I found this on Search Engine Journal, which is not a website I typically go perusing around an awful lot. But the article is entitled WordPress releases 2 plugins for speeding up web pages. And I thought, that's curious. I haven't heard anything about this. So I explored a little bit more. And I'm just going to scroll to the bit that matters. And here we are. The 2 new performance plugins, auto size for lazy loaded images and speculation rules. Okay, the auto size for lazy loaded images makes perfect sense to me. I think, great. We all understand what that is. This one, though, what the heck? This is so intriguing and a little bit weird at the same time. And I didn't even know this existed. So there's a thing, I think it's called the Speculation API. Oh, I can't find it now. I'm going to go with Speculation API. And it is a tooling, which I think is combined in some way with the browser. It must be. And it kind of tries to figure out what you're going to do next on the web. Please come into the comments and put me straight, or guests, just correct me. So you load a web page, and then it makes judgments about where is the next most likely place for you to go. And then it starts to preload those assets. So on the one hand, I think that's great. That's speeding up the internet for me. On the other hand, I'm thinking that's lousy for the environment because I'm now loading a load of assets that I may never need. So anyway, here they are on the Search Engine Journal website. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, for me, this is more scary than copying web pages content AI. I mean, if somebody starts imagining where I'm going to go and already load that, yeah, no, not happy with that.
It says the Speculation Rules plugin leverages the Speculation Rules API in order to download the resources of web pages that a user is likely to request. The Speculation Rules plugin essentially predicts that a page will be requested and will begin pre-rendering the web page before a user clicks a link. I'll keep going a little bit because it will add some depth to it. Uses of the Speculation API to pre-render link URLs upon hover by default. Oh, that's interesting. So you hover on something and the browser puts up a little window showing you what the website would look like. I don't know if I need that, but okay, I can see it might be useful there. The Speculation Rules API is a feature designed to improve the performance of web browsing by allowing web pages to provide hints to the browser about the potential links that a user might click to navigate to a different web page. The browser can then prefetch or pre-render resources based on the likelihood of a visitor clicking a link to navigate to a new web page. And then there's all sorts of developer documentation from Mozilla and also the Chrome team. So we could get into the weeds, but I didn't. I just thought it was an interesting proposition. But personally, if that was an option, I will be switching it off because I just don't like the idea of something being loaded just for the environment as much as anything else. But also, I don't know where where's the prediction coming from? Is it based upon my previous, previous history on that website? Like, for example, if I go to the bbc.co.uk website, I always click news. That's the first link I go to. So would it always just preload that knowing, oh, you've done this before. This is typically what Nathan does. So let's preload that. And then I want to know who's keeping that. Who's keeping that data about what I typically do? Here's Ross, probably to save the day. Right, okay, here we go. Ross Wintle in the UK, developer in the UK. There's still a subset of team culture that... Oh, sorry, he was on the previous one. So we'll come back to you, Ross. Apologies, you're watching a few minutes behind. Let's go back to this. What do you think?
If my website performance issues are so bad or so slow that I need this to predict what my users are going to be doing, I think maybe I want to solve the fundamental performance issues first.
Yep.
It just seems too much. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs sutures, right? And hoping that it just heals on its own. If there's a problem with the site's performance, solve those things first. Make sure, there's some generic performance recommendations that I think we can all make. It just seems like too much. It seems like
Yeah,
going
it sounds
bad.
even worse. It sounds like just, and there's a wound in the body somewhere and just randomly stitching up something because,
Yeah.
that might just be where the wound is.
Yeah.
We see blood, we start stitching an arm because,
Yeah.
that might be where the blood is coming from.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of conflicting, isn't it? It says here that you need, for at the moment, you need at least Chrome 121. Gosh, is that
Yeah.
where we're at for this to work? And it says that users that visit a site whilst using a different browser that do not support the Speculation Rules API won't be affected in any way. It will be rendered as it normally would. And then it goes on. The plugin documentation says, by default, the plugin is configured to pre-render WordPress front-end URLs when the browser hovers over a relevant link. This can be customized via the speculation rules under the settings and then reading. A filter can be used to exclude certain URL paths from being eligible for prefetching and pre-rendering. Alternatively, you can add the no pre-render CSS class to any link. Great, more things to add that should not be pre-rendered. Okay, Rob, I had an intuition you were about to say something. Sorry if I interrupted.
Oh, it's okay. And I am. So we're doing I agree with Kathy, by the way, 100%. But we're also doing all these speculation rules. And isn't that in essence going to increase the overhead on a website? So if you've got a badly performing website and now we're increasing the overhead, isn't it going to perform worse? Like, I got to wonder, because the more we do with APIs, the worse the performance gets, the worse the GT metric scores get. And then where are we? That's my 2 cents.
I don't really have any intuitions. I really should make more of an effort to understand the underlying technology of it.
Okay.
Maybe that's that's something that we can do in the future. But okay. So anyway, there you go. It's I don't know where it's going to pop up this and where you're going to get that plugin from, whether it's going to go into core or what. Don't know. But okay. Let's go back to the subject that we had a minute ago. Pete says, Pete's joining us. Oh, thank you, Pete. He's saying, time to change the WP Builds podcast thumbnail. Yes, because, that traitorous David Wormsley has left me. And we need to be expunged. On the website, on the homepage, I did get rid of it. It used to say with David Wormsley here. And then right at the bottom, it used to say David. So I removed him from all of those places.
The same way you expunge Paul Lacey too.
Oh, don't even. Traitor. But David said we should set up a traitors page on the Builds website and feature him and Paul Lacey. We're still very good friends, all of us. Okay, let's go back to previous things. So we're back to the Elementor AI wizard stuff. Even if you copy a good design, you'll have to adapt it to your own needs, and you need to understand UX, content, and content design in order to be able to do that, not to mention accessibility. Okay. I guess the fear, Peter, for me is that these AI tools begin to get good at those things as well in the future. So, we could be facing a thing where it can make some of those intelligent decisions as well. And then there's still a subset. So this is going back to the computer teaching, I think, in schools in the UK. Ross is from the UK, by the way. There's still a subset of teen culture that's into building tech and coding, and the resources available now are amazing. You should see what kids are doing with Minecraft, Scratch, and Microbit. So obviously Minecraft, we all know what that's capable of, but Scratch is like a program where you can add in little jigsaw pieces and make a set of code, and it all goes in this sort of like linear fashion down the page. You can do ifs and loops and all of that kind of stuff. It's fun. It's really good. And then he says Raspberry Pi. Oh, of course. Yeah. Raspberry Pi and the game dev tools that are now available combined with YouTube and retro gaming culture. There's plenty of builders and hacking around. That's great. And if you want a co-host, put out an ad auditions. I'm saying nothing. I'm saying nothing. It's in hand, is all I'm saying. I've just said something. What the heck? I said I wasn't going to say anything, then I said something. But I've got intuitions as to how 2024 is going to look, minus the traitors. Okay. Right. You milk that joke for everything it's worth. Let's move on, shall we? And let's talk about this. Oh, this is a shame. I don't like things like this. Opera. in the day. Fabulous browser. I had a Windows-based phone. You know, when it had that, like the little stylus and the teeny tiny keyboard? I loved that phone. It was great. And it had the best browser in the world on it, and it was called Opera Mini. And it would pre-render, because mobile phones were rubbish at looking at websites back then, it would pre-render it and send you an image of what the website looked like. It was really cool. It was really clever. But if this article is to be believed, and I say that because I don't know the truth of it, if this article is to be believed, then you would probably want to stop using the Opera browser, because it would appear that at the moment, really, it has been bought out and sold several times, and it's now really owned by a venture capital firm. That venture capital firm, again, caveat emptor, if the article is true, are now making money with what can only be described as really bad loan scheme apps to keep the company afloat. So they are targeting parts of the developing world and saddling people there with debt. And if any of that is true, if any of that turns out to be true, then I think the culture here has gone. You know, the day when they were a viable alternative, they got eaten up by Mozilla, they got eaten by Chrome. But rather than sort of call it a day, they decided that they would keep the business going. But anyway, it's a horrible thought. I don't really ever want to say those words, but maybe it's time to move on from Opera. I'll put the link to this in the show notes. It's from a website called spacebar.news. But it came to me on good authority, but we'll have to see if that's true. But that's weird, isn't it? That's a sort of sad piece of news if that's actually true. Anybody want to comment on that? Just growl into the mic like naughty Opera. Okay, Paul Halfpenny's here to save the day about the speculation rules API. Speculation, no, can't even say it. Speculation rules plugin is pretty cool. Okay, he loves it. Similar to how we prefetch fonts and other items when rendering, the likelihood is that you will click on a link you hover over, so it's saving load time. Okay, maybe there's a piece of the puzzle that we didn't understand. This is based upon some intent because of hover, just hover. If you go for like 1 second over a link or something, you are likely to be using it. All right. Okay.
Well, if you're using your mouse like me, like that,
Yeah,
the whole
you're loading
time,
everything. You're just
That's me too.
loading everything. No, it'd be really, I bet you the math in there would be really interesting. I bet there's some metric of, you know, like whether it's a 10th of a second or a 20th of a second or something, some little granular bit of maths, which, anyway, thank you, Paul. I appreciate the comment. That's great. Thank you for letting us know that.
Yeah, also, what would be interesting, I am now learning to use the mouse with my left hand because I had some pain in my right arm. And my mouse behavior is completely different.
I'm going to try that right now. I'm going to try you. I've never, ever done it. Okay. Oh, that's really bad. Wow, that is hard. I'm like I'm going at a 10th of the speed I normally would, and I'm terrified of clicking on something. I think we should all try that. Well, that is weird. Anyway, sorry, carry on. Apologize.
Yeah, that was it. It's just like, so if you have predictions, then, and especially predictions on my normal behavior, this is what Wendy would do in case of your BBC visit, what Nathan would do. Wendy has her preferences too. But now the thing is completely mixed up because I'm using my other hand.
Yeah,
makes no sense.
You've just downloaded all the internet because that is really interesting. I love injecting things into my life which make me aware of how rubbish I am as soon as my default structure is torn to pieces. You ever done that thing where you sellotape, like you sticky tape your thumb so that you can't use it? My kids came back from school one day and they did it at school. It's an experiment. Just take your thumb out of the picture, like just wrap some tape around it. 10 minutes and you will suddenly realize like how everything needs the thumb. So there you go. I've given you homework and I've made Wendy sneeze. That was so good.
I'm allergic for experiments like that.
That's right. That's right. Not use the thumb. The heck? Right. Okay. Let's move on. We're on to the last couple of things. We're kind of running out of time, and these are submitted by Kathy. and Wendy. Let's go here first. This is Wendy's one. I wanted to raise a little shout out for WordCamp Europe. Was there a specific reason?
No, there is always a reason to shout out for WordCamp Europe. Tickets are up. They are available. And if I'm not mistaken, we are getting the new design in the coming, I don't know, days, week maybe. So that is coming up, which is super exciting. And there are two things I want to point out. The call for volunteers is still open. So if you're interested in volunteering at WordCamp Europe, don't forget to apply. And the call for next year's hosting city is also open. So if you are part of a community that is active in organizing WordPress events in Europe and you are interested in hosting WordCamp Europe, go to the website, find the information. We have office hours every Tuesday where you can talk with one of the people that is on the team for selecting. And you can get more information, and you can also apply if you're interested. So
I'm going to nominate my back garden with flamingos and swimming pool. Everybody's
I don't know how happy your family is going to be with 2,000 to 3,000 people in your back garden.
They're going on
while trying to
dispatch them to somewhere with a real swimming pool and real water slides. Okay, thank you. So WordCamp Europe, boy, these things creep up on you. It feels like just last week that we were talking about where it was going to be, and now it's in Torino, 13th to the 15th of June, 2024. And like Wendy said, if you scroll down a little bit, there's still a need for volunteers. And so keep your eye on the site and see how the design changes as well. And the other one, oh, sorry, Wendy, carry on.
Yeah, no, it's I'm super excited. I've already seen a preview of the new site, and it's so nice. It's so nice.
Nice. And this one, WordCamp Phoenix. This is from Kathy. What have you got about this?
WordCamp Phoenix is a very special event. I was an organizer there for a couple of years pre-pandemic, and when I lived in the Valley. It is a unique event in that speakers come from all over the place. It's one of the core, even though it's a local WordCamp, it feels like one of the core WordCamps for the entirety of the United States. First of all, Phoenix, February, hey, it is the best time to go. Don't go in July. The weather is perfect. And the speaker lineup, if I may say so myself, I am speaking. But there are an immense number of really intelligent and inspiring speakers that are going to be there. The topic areas typically are more cutting edge and more not entirely technical, but like last year I spoke there and talked about passkeys, and there's a number of talks that are kind of much more forward thinking. They're less beginner oriented. So just wanted to highlight it for the entirety of the WordPress community. If you want to go to a WordCamp that is top tier, WordCamp Phoenix is the place to be. And I hope to see you there.
Yeah, it's happening soon. It says 9th to the 10th of Feb. So really soon, like in a couple of weeks or 10 days or something. Looks like there's two tracks, one called the classroom track. I guess that's more workshoppy. And then there's the auditorium track, which I guess is a bit more, delivery of speeches by presenters and so on. And there you are, look. The Remote Work Survival Guide. Kathy Zant. Yeah. She's going to be there on the 9th of Feb at 10:30 in the morning. Say again.
I'm going to show all my scars of 20 years of remote work.
Can I just totally hijack the conversation again, right?
Of course.
I can't understand passkeys. I just don't get it. Like, what the heck? No matter, I don't know where they are, or at least with my password manager, there it is, and I've got everything in that little vault. But the passkey thing, I seem to have, like, I don't know, browsers pop up and say you've got a passkey, and I try it and it doesn't work. Is that the future? Is that where we're going, Kathy? Passkeys for all the things?
We're going passwordless.
Okay.
It's everybody. Passwords obviously have a lot of issues with them. There's some services like Stripe has passkeys as a second factor instead of a 2FA code you have to dig out. You still have your password, but you have a passkey as a second factor. And I have a video on this on my YouTube channel. I'll send it to
Okay,
you,
that's
Nathan,
where we're
and I will
going.
answer all your
We'll,
questions.
yeah, okay. That's perfect. That kind of rounds it out nicely. So we'll go to Kathy's website. I'll try. Let me just write that down. I will link it into the show notes. Passkeys. Okay, right there we go. On my high-tech piece of flattened tree with a pen. Right, that's it. That's all we've got time for, I think. Just a couple of comments just before we end. The first one is from Courtney to say you can turn it off in the browser. That whole speculation API, you can turn it off in the browser. I hope it's turned off by default. I want to know that that's not on by default. And Courtney says she'll see you there. She's going.
Awesome.
You will see Courtney in Phoenix. Right, that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much. Loads of nice comments. I appreciate that. That was very, very kind of you to give all the comments. That was really lovely. So thank you to Kathy Zant. Thank you to Rob Cairns. And thank you to Wendy. Just Wendy. That's what it's going to be from now on, the double Wendy. I appreciate you coming on the show and giving up your time so freely. I really, really do appreciate it. Thanks to all the commenters. It just remains for me to ask everybody to humiliate themselves by raising their hands. And yay, look at you all. Just loving it. That's great. We will see you this time next week with another panel of guests. For now, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, like I say, we'll be back next week. Take it easy.